This is the first DVD that actually takes place in the year 2007. Now, why don't these birds seem that like they care? I need to have breakfast. I need to evaluate the weather report for the day. It's always nice to start the day, start the year with a bunch of happy birds. Now, in less than a half an hour, the time it's taken me to have my cereal, they've wiped out the feeder. They're on the bottom row of the feeder. These are my constant breakfast companions. These guys and Woody the Woodpecker. What a way to start the day. Well, after looking at the weather report, this day's shot, we got 25-mile-an-hour winds out there now, and it's only supposed to get worse as a little bit of a nasty weather's going to go through here. But we have lucked out at the end of 2006 to the point where we actually had about 2 free months of flying. But now it's time to get some building done while the weather's crappy like this. Now, the last time we worked on the 90 project, we had found this. This is a pretty roughed out block. I'm not sure. I was hoping I'd find something a little bit better, but you know what? I didn't. And we spent a lot of time trying to get weights on it to get it straightened out. I think it's good enough to use right now for a top block. I also got 2. One of them is pretty good. One is mediocre blocks that we're going to use for the bottom. But it's time to start laying out the block shapes. Now, thanks to these drawings that I have, these copies from Gerald Champ, I'm going to make a pattern. I'm going to make a side pattern for what this block will look like from the side. Still got a bow in it. See, you take it out of the mold and it goes right back. Not really. It was a lot worse before, and we'll try to dress that. Step 1 is we're going to have to fit that block. We're going to have to make a pattern for the top and fit that block. Now, what's nice is we have several copies of these drawings, each one just a little bit different, but this one represents very close to what the side view of this block will be. So the first step is going to be, step 1, I'm going to put a nice final shaping on one side so that it sits down on the block, on the crutch itself, a little tighter than it does. And I'm going to try to use, you can see one side of this block is, looks like a dinosaur took a bite out of it or something. But this actually is the only block that's big enough that we can do this whole top block without making a joint. So even if this isn't our first choice, it's the army it's the block we're going to war with. Now, I got the sandpaper down here, but it's not wide enough for this block. So what I'm going to have to try to do, since I don't need the middle, I'm going to try to do this a little bit differently. Do about half of it at a time, and just get a nice surface on one side, and then take that big carbide block and dress the rest. That's coming. Maybe I'm panicking here. See, the idea is with a block is not to induce a stress into it. So you've got it taped down, and then you hollow it out, and it goes. The idea is to get everything sitting that it's not under stress. Especially now in this case, if we can use this block and it makes a decent top block, we have that whole curve front and Gerald was good at massaging that for us. And Les, of course, did it in the past, and so did John Cafaro. But what that does is, in the Testarossa, we have a joint there, and the joints never come through, but I'd feel better without that joint there. Maybe a couple of years from now, we'll be flying a Testarossa. One day you go to pick it up, and there's that. I know Rich Oliver had a plane that the canopy, the little thing came through too. So getting this surface flat, that would probably be step 1. Now this block is also good because now I see where the high spots are on here, and I can work some of them. And it's not horrible, but I really do want to get this relatively flat, and it's at the 2 ends that it kind of bows up. And boy, we left this sitting under pressure for weeks. Now, I wanted to thank Doran again, for Doran Morisano. He's in Europe right now, I guess with his relatives or his wife's relatives, and he sent us that 6-hour video that I managed to put 1 hour on. Quite informative, and I'm not going to start. And by the way, if anybody wants a full 6-hour copy of that, I'll be glad to make them a copy. It's no problem. But I just wanted people to get a look at and some idea of how much work goes into making some of these parts. Okay, we're almost ready to, we've almost got this ready. So what I did, I cut up Gerald Champ's pattern here and traced out and left a good 1/4 inch extra for carving mistakes. But that's basically, the pink is the material that has to be removed. Then I laid the crutch on here and I can see where this material has to be removed. So if I can set up some kind of a saw or something to get a lot of that off, just save me some carving. If not, I'll just carve it off. But now we have a pretty decent idea, a relatively decent idea of how that's going to shape up, whether we have to carve it or not. Now this block is too thick, it doesn't fit under the saw, so I'm going to have to do this with a hand saw or a jigsaw or something. And I have one of those wonderful 3-wheel band saws. Every time you go to cut a piece of wood, the blade jumps off, so I think that before I even fool with that and waste a half an hour, I'd carve it by hand. But I can take this dimension off. I can take all of this wood, and the thing is, any wood that comes off now is just less carbon. And I'll leave plenty on there. I'm not going to try to even get anywhere near close. Leave a good 1/8 inch. And even just getting some of this wood off, any that I can get off, there's a lot less carbon there. Because once we get the block shaped, then we can start working on those scoops, and that's the part that I think is really going to be challenging. And the idea is I'm going to have to, well, let me just mention this. I'm going to have to bounce between working on this on days that it's unflyable and doing this ARF development on days, assuming we get some, because here it is, we've started 2007 and so far haven't had a flyable day. So we had such good weather. Oh God, it's like a dream when I look back at that, but now it really is like winter. Now after wasting my time looking for other alternatives, this is the easiest way I know of. Then I'll leave obviously a little extra material and do the rest of it carving by hand. But to get these really wide, high blocks, this is about the only way I know of this is going to work. Get a little more to get right up closer to the line this way. I need to have it perfect, and this will get us a relatively straight line. And we can start with carving. Now I can take a little more of this material off to bring it down to the profile I'm looking for. Again, a combination of the belt sander. You just need to get as much of this off before I tack glue it on, because it's just easier to work with. You can grab it with your hand. Once it's in the fuselage, it gets difficult to hold. See how close we're getting down to that turtle deck? Oh, we got a little more. Again, we're working off the little drawings that Gerald massaged. And I think he did a real good job of kind of zeroing in on a shape that I liked anyway. And it looks like we're just going to make it with this big dent in the wood. Again, the days of just calling up a balsa company and getting good 4 to 6 pound wood, well, they're a pleasant memory for me. So if you have a good source of wood, send me a good top block. Let's see if we can do the same thing up here, maybe. Get some of this rough stuff off. And what I do too is I get all this stuff just to try to keep dust down in the house, and as soon as I get a towel, I fold the towel up, either put it in the garbage can here or take it outside in the neighbor's yard and let it go in their pool. Okay, we're close on this block. Certainly close enough, and it's a little oversized in every dimension. Okay, now I like to keep the garbage can right here. You can see what I'm doing, making a little waterfall of chips. As I start to do the carving and shaping, I have it taped in place. A little bit of material on in every dimension. And just tack glued on. As soon as I'm happy with the tack glue is dry, I'll take the tape off. And we'll start the shaping.
Now, because
now usually what I like to do is leave the nose really big until I get to a spinner.
For the scale of the thing,
but I've got half roughed out, half not. Les is here chatting with Rich on the phone, so I'm just carving away until it's time for coffee. So after 3 hours, what do you say, Les? An hour and a half? How long have you been here? 2 hours?
What? How long have I been here?
Yeah, 2 hours.
No,
well,
not even.
We got it roughed, but the next step is going to be to get it symmetrical. See, and I always use that little piece of tape down the middle. But I'll be very careful now, and then the last thing is to get the motor with the spinner on it, and I'll have to take, the motor is over there in the J Factor, have to take the motor out so I can line up all the angles on a spinner. But just getting it roughed out today, I feel like got one step ahead. And that absolutely, that was an easy block to carve, unlike a cardinal or something. This is a pretty easy one to do. Okay, the next step is to take some of this. We've left it plenty oversized up by the nose, and start taking some of that material away with the sanding block to get the top blend in. We've got it plenty oversized now, so this will be easy. Before I even put the motor in, I can get a lot of that material out of there. Just make it that when the motor's in and it's all in one piece, I'll just have very, very small amount of work left to do. So for day one, we got some roughing out. I'm not sure how much more sanding. We got to do some work up around the nose. That was a good first session. And tonight, the little thing I want to work on here, I have a little bit of time. See how I'm going off Gerald's drawing. So I've got to get rid of this little material here. More of a curve down in the front here to get the canopy just right. Now what I usually do here is I try to define where I want to have the change. I need to have, what I want to do is curve this down just a little bit more. So let me, and again, I better do this little by little. I'd rather do it little by little, because it's a lot easier to do it in gradual steps than to undo it all at once. So what I want to do is work on that side profile first. Oh, needs more. Now this is one of the really difficult parts of a plane, is to get this curve where it goes around the cockpit. And so the first thing is to get this angle right. This is the kind of stuff I like to do late at night like this when the phone isn't really busy. And once I get this angle, I'm going to show this little trick that I have for doing this. Not a big deal, but something you may... Okay, a little bit more. It is what's nice about having Gerald's drawings. Les was here today. He liked the drawing a lot. But this is a critical thing. This is one of the things that it's going to take a lot of little sessions, and I may as well start it right now, to get this vision that I want up in the front And every plane, of course, is just a little bit different. Okay, now I need to identify just identify the middle of this when I start the carving. Okay, now from this side on, now I can start carving away. Even though I know I have a little material there, I can start this very gradual carving process. And I can bring it in this way. Now what's going to happen is this line is going to start to take a shape like this. So I need to come down, and again I'll try to do one side first, and then match, doing one side and then match the other side. Now this just really gets to be a little labor of love and a little ice shavings until I get a shape that I'm happy with here on one side, and then I work my way up to that tape on one side. And once I get one side done, then transposing it over is easy. But to get this shape, what's going to be coming to almost to a point or very sharp, I want to get that contour, and I got to do a lot of it. It's just going to take time. Now I've got half shape. Now I got to try to transpose that off into the other side. Now the hardest thing to get is this little groove that goes, so what I do, I hold my hand on both sides, and as I'm carving it in, I need to establish where that little groove is going to be for the canopy. Whatever shape I have in my mind's eye right now. Whether you're making a smoothie or a cardinal or what. And as this is evolving, this shape may evolve, it may change. As an example, getting this front angle changed as per the plans was a big step. Now I basically have to recarve and resand this. But each time I do it, I'm massaging it and getting a little fine tuning on it. Maybe that I wouldn't have if I didn't do this one step at a time. And now once I get one side half done, then the other side is rough. I want to do both sides at the same time. You know, as I'm working this area here, this is the defining line of the canopy. And I need to have the block laying right flat as I go into that groove. And then I need to have it go flat into that groove when I go the other way. There's no other way I know of to get this nice. Now once I get that area, I get that angle right in there. Now I can take it and work it from the top down. But I got to work toward that angle. I have to be in that angle at all times. Because this is going to be one of the defining features. I picture in my mind's eye here a pretty slick looking, very racy looking canopy. A little bit different than anything we've done before, but having a cardinal flavor of that pointed top. But work, and this is the hard part to get across, is to work right into that groove from both sides. And it's that little line, that's what we're working toward. And of course I'm working to try to get it even on both sides too. So it all comes to the point right here. Now as I'm working this angle in, and I'm trying to show this look from the top, trying to keep it symmetrical. The way to keep it symmetrical is figure a spot every thickness back and just measure. In this case it's about 1/4 of an inch here, 3/8, a little more, and if it's the same on both sides, that's how you get that symmetrical, like a knife-like look of it. Now I also got a couple of dings in here I need to sand out, but every time I sand this now, and I have the block with the little relief cut back, I'm going to work into that corner. It's working into that corner, and then check the measurements that you're not losing that line, that defining line. That's what really, in the end, it defines that canopy. And we want to make a really nice, unusual looking, long, pointy, kind of a racing boat, maybe for the hydroplane canopies type. Kind of something like Walt Prey would probably like. And I always try to look around as I'm doing this to get some ideas. The classic cardinal type canopies. Casmanato's canopy. This is something similar to what I like. This is Walt Prey's canopy. Just among others, and it's a good idea while I'm carving and sanding. Just walk around and try to get some more. Just steal ideas wherever you can. See, the canopy and that scoop are the kind of the defining features that we need to work on. And I'll spend an infinite amount of time, if I have to, working on this canopy shape. I want it to be, in the end, one of the defining features that I really am happy with. That canopy, and one of the next things, the scoops. So this session ends. We got the canopy at least rough sanded in. A little bit of rough sanding on the nose, and next time we get to do a session, we're going to start looking at I think the spinner fit and the cowling. Yeah, we got up this morning and I had to decide whether to work on a 90 ship or get out here with Jose's engine. It's below freezing. There's the ice. When there's ice there, baby, there's only one way you make ice. It's below freezing. It's cold. We're going to try to get some runs on Jose's engine. Okay, we have Rich Oliver's header on there. Jose Modesto's motor. We want to ground run it once. Just make sure nothing's not the way we want it. And then what we're going to try to do is set up the tripods, and boy, it's colder than I thought it was out here because the wind is coming up already. But I'd like to get a couple of flights just so Jose can see what his motor's running like, and of course maybe this weekend we'll get him down here to fly his own motor. Now what I did, I got a couple of preliminary flights on this as I crushed juice. I got a couple of flights. I wanted to try a couple of different props. Basically because what's happened is Jose's motor runs almost exactly like mine. You can't tell which is which almost. Very similar. It runs the same amount of laps after the pattern, so it's very good on fuel too. That's kind of a byproduct. And I was changing props because what's happened, it's got unflyable. It's getting so breezy and hawky here. I just want to be careful, and I want to get a little bit of prop testing done, see what I can learn. For all purposes, these motors are the same. Richard's muffler is just a little quieter than mine. A little heavier, a little quieter. That's all a subjective thing anyway. Something that really doesn't even matter. To me, I like it loud. We're us tough guys. Now that I've got about a half a gallon of fuel through here, it's safe for me to say it's not a stunt pattern day, that's for sure. Not even going to bother with the tripod. But the thing that jumps out at me right away is how similar these motors are. And actually, I wound up putting the prop that I was using on my motor on. I have 4 or 5 of Rich Oliver's that have a little more pitch. It just seemed like it went right back to the 14.5 rev up whenever I flopped around. I may as well put the spinner back on. Looks like I burned my spinner nut out. But what's going to happen now, I think, and I'm not sure, I have a feeling that what when Jose had this motor, they were running fuel that might have had some castor oil in it. Maybe, I don't know. Because it seems like each run I'm getting, the motor's kind of getting that feeling of just being friendlier and friendlier. And it's so similar that it's like having a twin sister. And now that I've flown 2 of these in the same ARF, I get, my opinion is this is the motor of choice for this plane. Well, I think we're just going to get one more flight here, and oh, we got some prop testing, we got some unflyable days. Believe me, when it's nasty like this here, you get up above 45, it gets nasty in a hurry. But we accomplished the mission we wanted to. We got a day of running, actually probably half a gallon, of running Jose's motor. It's getting friendlier and friendlier. I can't explain why. I'll have to talk to Jose, see if he had run this on castor oil fuel. Usually, Richard said it takes 2 or 3 flights to wear off all that varnish and get the motor freed up. But right now, it's just about, it's to the point where, and it's this muffling system is quieter than mine, so it's deceptive. I kind of like the growl, but if you were flying in an area where a muffler matters to you, or you want your plane to sound a certain way, this certainly is a good choice. And I think it added about an ounce to the plane over what we had, which plane this size hardly even matters. I guess I'm being a sucker here because I wanted to get one more flight. Every time I get done, I think, one more. There's still some fuel in there too. It's like having a bottle of vodka. I guess you just want to polish off the gallon or whatever. But I thought if nothing else, it's going to put some time on Jose's motor with no castor fuel. It isn't going to hurt anything as we try to dial this in a little more. Again, I've come back to the 14.5 rev up, no matter what I do. I wish I knew why. I don't. This seems to be a good combo for this engine. It'll be interesting to see if we get some good weather later in the week. But today certainly wasn't one of the good air days. Now, as we end this session, hey, it's a day that normally I would have been home anyway. We got the better part of a gallon of fuel through Jose's motor. Put a lot of little data in the database. Got to try 4 or 5 of Richard's props. And that motor, I don't know what there is about it. It likes that 14.5 rev up no matter how many times I change it. So once I get back to the house, I'll put the spinner back on it. A couple other little things I wanted to do. Bang, you're dead. Here's a great little tip for cold weather flying. If you're taking a coffee break, in this case, this one's already charged. What I do is I always bring 3 or 4 batteries. And believe me, in the cold weather, and Rich Oliver explained this to me, in cold weather these batteries die a very quick death. I mean, if you have not experienced ice fishing as we have here, I just learned it this year. Extra batteries and have that charger that works off your cigarette lighter, that's worth its weight in gold. Now, in the course of doing this tank vent, and I had made these tank vents up out of aluminum, you can see what's happened, that's broken. I didn't have any brass tubing here. Brian has since given me his old tank vents from the Cardinal, so I'll put them in. And I noticed with this, to see where it's touching the tubing up against the header here, we'd like that not to happen, just to keep the header clean. Alright, so we've got the better part of a gallon through here already. And Jose's motor certainly is very close to being what mine is. I don't think there's going to be a lot of difference when we're done. And the big thing is we came right back to this prop. After all that prop testing today, back and forth, right back to the original one. Now, I always like to go through, as long as I have this apart, I'm going to change that tank vent out. The screws have all stayed tight. Again, mine was, when I put my motor in, they haven't really loosened up yet, so that was one of the concerns I had. In fact, I got to take the filter out to tighten those. I had some concerns that that the two motors might be dramatically different in some way, fuel consumption. They are pretty much the same. They even start the same. Most of the time with one or two flips backwards. They like to start backwards. But I really should replace that vent. That vent is an accident waiting to happen. And I don't want to have that, because what's going to happen, especially with an ARF with a monocoque plane, I don't want to have any fuel dripping there. This plane basically stays as clean or cleaner than a plane with a pipe. And I don't want to get to where everything is oil soaked in here somewhere very early down the road. So I've been very careful to check everything, check the headers. I don't have any leakage in here, painted inside here. And it's so far, what's very impressive is how similar the motors are. And I remember doing John Caffaro's motor in the Spitfire, and it's basically, and it's done. No, I tried some of those decals that Rich Oliver made just to see how they're going to hold up over monocoque. Now, this is a decal. This is not the press-on. Yeah, it seems to be holding up. Not perfect, but it's holding up. The other one is the one that comes with the ARF. John Pothia made these little logos up that I really like. May get some t-shirts made for the future. Not sure. Anyway, just having a little bit of fun here before we pack the car. Maintenance done for the day. Day one of the Jose motor test in the bank. And today's email from John Caffaro. This is progress on his P51. He's already got his ARF. Now he's got to finish the P51. Now again, John is one of our longtime friends, and he knows from the videos and from the information I've been able to pass on, he's been able to make his own set of molds. And we know he has the belly pan to Miss Ashley to mold. Well, looking forward to seeing more progress on this soon. Now here's one thing I want to comment on, John. This is something I don't like. That material, that red material, that belongs over paint. A much better choice there would be air epoxy light. And definitely not spackle. Just a thought. And that's by exchanging these DVDs and stuff and photos over the internet and whatever. This is some of the things I hope we can avert some future problems. This looks really cool. John, I'm really excited about seeing this when it's all, obviously it's a P51, the belly pan. He's really got this wired. And it looks like he's got that part, the Miss Ashley part, done already. That's pretty good. Not pretty good, it's excellent. Rojet on a pipe. Now, John, I hope by the time you see this, you've either got your ARF finished flying or whatever. Hey. And John, since we got this picture, you've been on our wall of honor here, baby. Look at this. Check this out. This is all. Oh, he's got the wall of honor with Chicky, among other people. You're in our hearts, John. I really hope this P51's going to be a killer. We're on the way to the field, and we always pass this body shop, and it seems like they got all kind of cool stuff going on here. They had a Ford GT the other day. Today they got a Hudson. Looks like an old Hudson convertible. Anyway, just a little more fun in looking at the seagulls go by. It's cold, it's windy, not sure we're going to get anything done, but I wanted to give it every possible shot. Uh-oh. This is usually a bad sign when the seagulls are here this early in the morning. Hey guys, listen. Time to fly. Come on, I don't want to be a mean guy. Let's go. Time to fly. Go out into the middle of the flying field. What a great spot to hang out. Anyway, it looks like we're here alone. It's 35 degrees. But we got the field all to ourselves. Not exactly all to yourselves. You gotta deal with us all day now. Well, the first thing we noticed today is these experimental decals that Rich Oliver made didn't stick very well. In fact, the little ones have already come off the plane. And I think the one on this side, this one's ready to come off. We may as well just take it out of its misery here. But I'm not sure. Now that's the decal that Ruben gave us. That's stuck like glue. I'm not sure why these didn't stick well at all. Well, doesn't matter. We're not in a decal business. We want to get some runs on Jose's motor, fool with the props, maybe take some head gaskets in and out, do a little more fine tuning. Worry about the decals later. Now, unfortunately, it looks like today is going to be a carbon copy of yesterday, with the wind is already really starting to rock and roll here. So, but I really did want to get some more even just runs on Jose's motor would be fun. Just want to get familiar with it. And once I'm done with a gallon or two of fuel, I feel like then we have a relationship. Sometimes a bad relationship. Anyway, I'm sad to see those decals didn't stick to the monocoque. I'm not sure why. But again, that's not the business we're in here. And I was in one of the car parts stores. I remember this not long ago, and they had a whole bunch of cool stickers for Ferraris and Porsches. I guess if you're into stickers and decals, you can do that. Oh, it's cold out here. Seagulls are back. But as we go on with this, it's becoming friendlier and friendlier. Well, it didn't take long for this day to become unflyable, but we have some more flights on this motor, some more runs, and it's getting friendlier and friendlier. Just keeps getting friendlier. That relationship is forming. We're gonna get back to the shop though. We got a lot of work to do back there. I'm almost glad it's turned into a bad day. This weekend coming up, I have to make a giant decision. There's the biggest train show of the year, about an hour's drive from here, or fly in the ARF. I bet you can't figure out how that's going to work out. Anyway, I do like these new engines. I bet Gerald Champ likes these too. All the guys that do share my love of model railroading too. Mike Costello among them. John Simpson. Anyway, but this weekend is going to be, I think it's going to be an ARF weekend. I hope we get some weather better than today. And one of the things, love those new engines by the way, one of the things I wanted to experiment with, see, a day like today, it's unflyable. You get there, you get a flight, but you don't get stunt patterns and you don't get video, and you just flop around like it's at the over the Niagara Falls or something. But one of the things that always gives me an idea, now one of the things I've been waiting to try, because I didn't have the lathe up and running when I made that last group of labels, I have a little experimental part that I want to make and test, And as long as we're testing things, see, on a day like today, if I had this part with me, but it would be a good day to test it. Because I can test how the engine's running. You just can't do stunt patterns. So, anyway, having this lathe up and running has really been a godsend, I guess is the right word. Because we can make some of these parts that in the past we'd have to wait and send out. Now this is going to be for a custom muffler. Now we've always had we know it's a critical thing, the restriction at the back, the outlet hole. And we've always had them on the small side. So now we're going to get a chance to check them at several sizes. And because I got a real good set of drills now, it's going to allow me to make up some of these parts that, again, I was always restricted to the size of the tubing or whatever. And I know, one of the things I know, and it's a given fact, those rubber outlets really are a big restrictor. Well, you can make up for that in other ways, higher compression, bigger venturi. But on our exhaust, we don't have the rubber outlet to deal with. So, and Rich Oliver's going to make, well, he's already making some test parts. It'll be interesting to see. We'll have like a little muffler fly-off, I guess, in the near future. So here's what we're starting with. One of the used headers. We were using this for a tune pipe header, in fact. Bob Zambelli had machined this down just to try it, to see if that was enough material. And it certainly is. This is 120 thousandths. That's plenty. Just as a weight saving. Again, he sandblasted off all the crud. The inside is still cruddy, so it's going to be a problem trying to get. Well, we're not going to weld that. We'll have to figure out how we want to do that. Again, we drilled this out to 430. Now what we need to do is get back to the lathe. We want to make this so we can hook the Rich Oliver's rubber, the 90 size rubber stinger on this. And somehow, and again, I was going to originally try to braze this or weld it with that aluminum rod that Brian had, but I think for this purpose I'm going to put set screws in it. And having a set screws, what it's going to allow me to do, the thing that allow me to do is I want to take it apart and run a drill in there or whatever. But there'll be no baffling. This will just be a straight through header with a piece on the end to hold that rubber. I call it the rubber duck. But it's got to be, for this motor, the 90 size one. They polished up pretty nice. I got two of these to make, by the way. And I'll try this on Jose's motor here. This part here, this part right here is 25 grams, under an ounce. And I took, these are the set screws, and I just ground the heads off. Ground in there so the screws aren't sticking in. Put some Loctite on the screws. And the only thing left to do now is get the plane out of the car and do a, well, we'll swap it out. I'm very comfortable with using Richard's big header. Now the next step in this evolution is to see if this is any better, worse, or the same. Now, pulling this apart, I think Richard's header is shorter. Longer, I mean. We don't know. He's making up another one even longer. And of course, even after a short day like today, where we didn't really do any heavy-duty flying, we didn't even do any stunt patterns really. What you can get feedback from these setups that you can put right in your database. So this is what we were able to accomplish. This setup here, a little bit heavier than ours, a little bit quieter. The next step on this is I'm going to drill it back out on this a couple of thousandths just to see, well, maybe I don't even have to. Rich is making up another one. But make sure if you use one of these rubber things that it's the 90 size. If you use the smaller 60 size one on a 76, you take a chance on even hurting the motor. And so far, we've got Jose's motor, Venturi 215, totally a mirror image of, and we're going to have exactly the same exhaust even. So when he gets to come down and fly it, or if we get to fly tomorrow, you never know. They always say it's going to be nice, and you get there and it's hurricanes are going through sometimes. but we're still getting stuff into the database. We still know more than if we, and this is 20 days. Tomorrow will be 21 days, 3 weeks. 3 weeks of working on this intensely. And I think the results, well, I'm pleased as can be with them. Now, there's a couple of critical things when you're doing this kind of work. Let me just explain what one of them is. When you have the Rojet spacer, you need to take the bolt. The bolts, and by the way, the bolts that come with this are 540 to not 440. You need to run it in hand tight when you have a milled header. Now you can see how much that leaves. See, now a stock header is not a problem. A stock one, that's perfect. But we have milled off material here, Bob Zambelli has, and so we want that to sit under there. And see what the problem is? So I have to use shorter bolts. And the bolts are 540. Now if you use bolts that are too long, they go in and distort, have a chance of distorting the liner. So you don't want to, you want to always do this test first if you've done any tinkering to the exhaust. Now luckily Les ordered these bolts a while back, so we do have every size, and if we don't, we'll cut them down. We have every size of 540. And I'd like, let's see. So what I'll do is take the next smaller size bolt. Little things like this can save you an engine. So if you go using bolts that are, if you're only catching 1 or 2 threads, you're going to pull out the threads. That looks like these will be the right size. Luckily Les has these. And if you're really uncomfortable cutting a bolt down, or you couldn't do it, get the bolts from micro fasteners. But the test that you need to have is that this bolt bottoms out without a lot of struggling. You don't want to squeeze it. Okay, now that's bottomed out. And now this is the machine part. Oh yeah, now we're right on the money. Okay, so now we're comfortable. We can put this whole assembly together. Well, we're going to see how this one runs next time we get to run this, which I'm not sure is going to be tomorrow, the next day, or when. Well, that worked out pretty well. The benefits might be that it's a little bit lighter. And the machining job, of course, anybody with a milling machine can do that. And the only thing left to do is button it back up and we're ready to go to the races. Now Rich Oliver suggested try cutting some of this down, which I did. That'll be another little test we can run. But anyway, without weather, we just need to wait till the gods are smiling on us for another flying day. The geese are flying, the seagulls. Somebody better start smiling for us. Now this morning it said it's going to rain all day. Well, we've come to know that that's not true all the time. It's like believing politicians. Sometimes they don't exactly deliver. But here I get the AMA magazine, and to be honest, in the past, you know, I've not jumped in and read the magazine the day it came to the house because I've been busy with this lovely project, the ARF. But here I wanted to congratulate John Brodak and Bob Dixon that did an absolutely fabulous job. Now, for people like Ramo in Sweden, I guess he doesn't get the AMA magazine. Look at Joe Adamusco Spitfire. Alan and Tommy, Miss Ellie, among others, Tom Dixon, Bob Dixon flying his 4-stroke. Among, you know, all the things that happen at Brodak, this is probably the best coverage seen. Phil Spillman, Lampione's plane, and of course the lovely Testarossa. Who's this in the background saying, is that Banjock? I didn't even notice that. That Artnowski, he stinks. I can see him now. I can hear it. I can hear it. Ah, Banjock, you finally got the Concourse Award. Palco gets a shock from having too much voltage in his plane. Anyway, a very special issue, and of course, the reason I'm showing you this, a great picture of the women and Karen. Notice Midgley's dressed Midgley and Tice are dressed to match the cheerleaders. Hey, but you know what it does for me? It's making me think already. Here we are, a couple days into the new year. This is the 3rd week anniversary of the ARF, and believe me, we're already looking forward to Brodex. I expect to see at least 100 ARFs at Brodex, and I'm going to count them. So that is a great issue. And Ramo, I'll tell you, I know you don't get this in Sweden, or Omri in Israel. I'll try to get an extra copy, and next time I send you some stuff, you'll really enjoy the coverage of the Brodex fly-in. But if you don't, you can enjoy the DVDs too. Always one of our favorite, maybe the favorite time of the whole year, the Brodex fly-in. And I'm hoping Warren Walker and Ramona are going to join us too. Great time, just like VSC and just like all of the contests that have emphasized having a good time above all else. And Brodex certainly delivers on that. And if the birds are already here and my coffee's gone, it must be time to get to the field and see if we'll get a few flights in between the raindrops. I want to try out that new header today. Well, as we come up on a field, there's definitely no ice today. It's a tropical 40 degrees. Wonder if you even need a coat today. Oh, not one seagull. The kids didn't wreck the field. There's no ice. But the wind is blowing already, so that's usually not a good sign. But the objective here is going to be to get at least 1 or 2 flights on this muffling system, just to see how restrictive it is, where the needle is. We're going to tough it out. Unfortunately, in the short time we were here, the wind is really getting dangerous to fly in, and I sure don't want to hurt Jose's engine. And it's not really going to be a legitimate test anymore. I want to see how this is going to run when it's in its normal stunt mode run. And it looks like, you never can tell here, it looks like we're getting a few raindrops. So we're just going to pack this in. Get back to the shop. Rich Jacobone's going to work on his Stuka today. This has the look of one of those days. Live to fight another day. And by the time we got home, it was raining good, so Rich has called. He'd like to come over and do his tissue job on a Stuka today, and it's a good day to work inside, I guess. And they're predicting a nice weekend, but I'm not holding my breath. The way it's not really looking like a great day, and it's sure not looking like a great weekend. But well, we got to go to war with the Cardinals we have. Now, you may think there's a mummy in there. No mummy, that's the bent wing Stuka. Now look, here's Rich is out getting more stuff. Check this out. He wants to do his tissue job. He brings like a shot glass full of clear here. Unbelievable. Who said the mummy? You wrap this thing up like it's still raining out there?
Yeah. What do you expect me to do?
What a disappointing day at the field. But that rain, as soon as I got there, it started raining. I couldn't believe it.
I didn't even come down.
Nah, I know.
I saw it raining. I said, that's it. Wendy, you're on your own.
Yeah, I'm on my own. You're a real loyal follower of the Ku Klux Klan here. All right, Stuka, man. Today's job is tissue. Let's see how he sanded. Oh, you're coming right along, baby. That feels good.
What the hell is
All right. Nah, it feels nice. You learned well. You learned from the sensei, huh?
I sanded the hell out of it.
Okay. No, it feels good.
Now,
And you better round off that leading edge. Tell Micah still. No.
what are you crazy?
Things like a roll of toilet paper now already. That's the B-25 airfoil. All right. Yeah, Mike said he'd stop by, but we can get tissue in, baby, because we only can do one side at a time. Wipe it all down. You got your M600?
No. Was I supposed to bring the M600? You didn't tell me to bring the M600. You told me to bring clear.
Luckily. Well, how much clear? That isn't going to even attach one wingtip. Here.
Of course it is.
Borrow my M600. Be a big spender.
What is this for? What are you going to
Just clean it so we can start. Tissue. That guy. Oh, man, I give him the best years of my life. When you make the flaps, you don't want it going even with the hinge line. You make it go even with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, with the taper.
Right, with the taper. That's how you get the best.
I'm not sure
Best grain orientation.
See,
Let's see what it looks like.
This is nice wood, nice and light.
Where'd you get this from? This is warped like a pretzel. What are you talking about?
This is Johnny D.
Let me see. This one's a lot. This is a goodie.
This one.
This one used for the centerpieces.
Yeah, either that.
Use this for the center because it won't matter. Let me see this. Let go of it for a second. That one's okay.
But you see the grain?
Yeah, you got crazy grain. See, you got grain up here where there was a tree branch.
See, this is what I was concerned about. I said, let me show you.
Let me see. And this one's a banana. This one, forget about. Put this one away. Make your wheel pants out of that or something. No, seriously, you got the flaps on this have got to be right, boy.
Okay, so this is the one that you suggest I use for the flaps.
Right.
The outside flaps.
Right. Well, you'll get both of them out of one
I know
piece.
that, I know.
But the middle piece, use the one that...
This one? This one?
I know where he got this from because I weighed it. That's my handwriting on there.
I got it from Johnny D.
Yeah, where do you think Johnny D got it from?
I have no
Surprise! How many hours you got into the turtle deck? A lot, huh? All right, you know what the weight, maximum weight is 3/4 of an ounce. No, let's see, I got the scale. Don't give me that look like, ooh.
Oh, it ain't it.
We're going to the Super Bowl. Let's weigh it.
Look at this.
Come on. You're allowed. Look, I would even allow 10% over. 20 grams is what mine weighs. You're allowed, I'll allow you 22 grams. Don't fool around. Don't play with the scale. Don't zero it out. Because you're on a pillow.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Weight is weight.
This better not be more than 22 grams. You know, when you brought that tail here that I had to throw away,
No.
you weren't happy with that, were you? You still hold me guilty for that.
First of all, I
22 grams, let's see.
finished the inside for the.
Okay. I'll allow 2 grams for that. 24 max. You know, you can't have everything. You're like a guy says, well, I don't want to work, and I want a lot of money. I want to live in a big house. I want to drive a Ferrari. Somewhere there you got to compromise. Oh, this is really heavy. It's over 30.
It's 30.
Yeah. There's the garbage can right
way.
there. Right there's the garbage
There
can.
ain't no way I'm going to throw this
Put
away.
that in the trash barrel.
First of all, you know how much work there is in this?
Give me that. Let me take it to the garbage. I'll show you. Let me show you where this goes.
No.
Right in the garbage.
Hey.
Right there. That's where it goes. It belongs with all the trash. 30, that plane's going to be 90 ounce. You're going to have a show plane.
I don't care. I ain't gonna do this over again.
When you put this on to the fuselage for the final fit,
I got to sand this.
block sand, try to get a
Yeah.
1/16 of that out anyway.
I can get easy a 32nd off of this.
I didn't
Because
say a 32nd. I said a 16.
Well, a
You got a lot of wood.
32nd on each side.
Okay.
I can get a 32nd on each side because
Yeah.
it overlaps the
I
fuse.
hope you don't have pilots made out of
Yeah, it
silly putty or something.
It overlaps the fuse
Yeah.
by about that much. So it's easy a 32nd on
Okay.
each side.
That would be a step in the right
So-
direction.
It'll probably weigh about 35 grams. I would think. 35, maybe 38 grams.
Okay, the best one, the Testarossa, is 20.
But you don't have
Shoot.
this.
I got more stuff on the Testarossa than you got. What are you talking about? I'll allow 2 grams for that. Now, the other thing is, because you're going to glass the nose of the plane, you could really make the front thin. You
I
could really
I
go
could
wild.
take some more stuff off.
Yes,
I could take more stuff.
yes.
off
Okay,
here.
okay.
I didn't want to do this now because, you know, when you handle it,
I know.
especially...
Okay, we did a final little touch-up sanding on this. And we're ready to tissue it. Just that's the M600, get it cleaned up. Even though you're going to cover it with tissue, you don't want to embed in a fingerprint or some grease or something. I mean, not after all the work you got on this. I'll tell you who liked it, Jose. When he was over here, yeah, he was looking at it, and Lampione he was beside himself. He was having fun. They got so mad they were making nasty comments about poor Matt Newman. Not that we would ever make nasty
No, of
comments.
course
Nah, it's out of the question.
Yeah, leave Matt alone.
Poor Matt. But he's going to be your best friend at the Nats.
He flies.
I hope he learns how to fly backwards so he can fly this thing too. He flew the Tiger Cat. I want it an eighth of an inch.
Yeah, that's-
Because you don't, but this is, on an outer joint, we'll overlap it. On an inner joint, this is going to shrink and pull up, so we want it, leave a good eighth of an inch.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay, we could leave the sheet big. Now I'm going to hit it with Windex. Where's your brush? Get your brush and your dope and everything.
I got the dope.
Start in the middle and work your way out. Try to get as many of the wrinkles out, and then at the end we'll trim whatever overage you have there. See, if you try to line that up and do it perfect, it's not going to happen because it's not a straight line. When you do a curve like that, it's a curve line. Put plenty on there. Plenty on. You don't want to be pulling up tape and have this come up. And look, when you're done, so you get it good and wet like this, this is what I do. Just rub it down with your bare hand. Don't be fooling around. Your hand won't cheat you. You can pull it and just tear it if you want. It doesn't really matter. When you're done sanding, that joint's not going to show at all. That joint disappears in the
It's better
finish.
if you just tear it.
Yeah. No, it's going to disappear in the finish, believe me.
Over here, though, you have to cut it.